Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to explore the sources you share, digging into the most insightful bits.
That's right.
And today we're doing a deep dive into a really interesting review someone shared about Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid.
Yes, that one.
Our mission, really, is to unpack what this review tells us. What makes this story tick? What makes it so impactful? And, what can we learn about perseverance, emotion, storytelling itself?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear from the get-go, this isn't just a casual read, according to the reviewer. It's something you really live inside for a bit.
Right.
So we're going to explore how Reid builds that world, that feeling, looking at character, her writing style, which is quite unique, and that whole emotional roller coaster she apparently puts you on.
Okay, yeah, let's start with the character then, the power of character.
Yeah.
The reviewer mentioned this really strong connection, saying the main character felt, quote, real and relatable. How does a writer even do that? Make someone feel so real, especially when they're, chasing a dream like going to space. That's pretty out there for most of us.
Well, that's the craft, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
more than just, like, giving them familiar habits. Reid seems to ground this character, not just in relatable flaws or moments, but in a core drive.
A drive.
Yeah, a motivation that feels deeply human, even if the goal itself, space, is extraordinary. The review mentions her chasing this passion even when the odds were stacked against her as a woman.
Right.
That struggle, that specific barrier, makes the big dream feel, well, tangible. It's about internal consistency, I think. You believe her, so you believe in her quest.
And that ties into what the reviewer highlighted next, perseverance. That the character never gave up. That specific phrase, that part of her story really stuck, underscores resilience, breaking barriers.
Yeah, it's powerful stuff.
But, sometimes in stories, characters who never give up, who are just relentlessly determined, can almost feel less real, a bit too perfect. Does Reid manage to keep her authentic, even with that level of grit? Does the review touch on the cost?
That's a really sharp point. Because real perseverance isn't just, winning all the time without breaking a sweat. And from the sounds of it, Reid gets that. She seems to show the cost, the sacrifices, the setbacks, maybe the moments of real doubt, even if the ultimate direction is forward. It's those struggles, the vulnerability mixed in with the determination that make the resilience feel earned, not just declared.
So it's not superhuman.
Exactly. It's human. And when you see a character push through believable obstacles, it resonates with our own lives, right? It can genuinely spark that feeling of, purpose. Seeing that maybe conviction can get you somewhere, despite the odds.
Okay, so that deep character work is the anchor. But the reviewer didn't stop there. They also really focused on how Reid tells the story, the writing itself, praising it as rich with detail and saying it felt like it could have been a true story. And this observation that Reid has a way of making fiction feel like biography apparently totally worked here.
That's fascinating, isn't it? That blurring of lines.
How does she pull that off, making something entirely made up feel like history, like a documentary almost?
Well, it often comes down to meticulous detail, but not just any detail. It's about grounding the fictional narrative in specifics that feel historically or culturally accurate for the time period, even if the main character is invented.
So like getting the atmosphere right. Pun intended, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. It's weaving in those small, authentic touches, maybe a real event happening in the background, specific slang, societal attitudes of the era, a really well-structured timeline. It gives the writing a kind of authority.
Authority, okay.
Yeah, narrative authority. Like the author isn't just making it up, they're reporting it. It's a skillful illusion.
And what does that do for us, the readers, or, the listeners experiencing the story? How does that biography feel pull you in?
Oh, it changes everything. When fiction takes on that biographical weight, you sort of lower your guard, your suspension of disbelief. You get invested on a different level.
Like you're learning about someone real.
Precisely. Not just following a plot, but uncovering a life. It makes the stakes feel higher, the emotions more potent, because it feels like it could have happened. Reid seems to be a master at creating that immersive credibility. You get so drawn in, you might forget it's fiction.
That authenticity, that credibility must really ramp up the emotional side of things. And the review definitely goes there.
Oh, yeah.
It mentions this interesting duality, a mostly happy ending, but contrasted with a lot of loss throughout the book that was apparently hard to sit with.
Right. That tension.
That sounds intense. Not just a simple happy story then.
Not at all. And what's really telling is how the reviewer framed it. That this significant loss, quote, hit deep but ultimately made the story even more powerful.
Okay, so the hardship wasn't just like drama for drama's sake. It served a purpose in the narrative.
Exactly. It suggests the tough stuff, the losses, were integral. They deepened the character's journey, maybe made the eventual outcome, even if mostly happy, feel more meaningful, more earned perhaps. Reid isn't afraid of the shadows, it seems.
And the reviewer's own reaction really drives that home. They actually said, I cried like a baby for the last portion of the book. That's a strong reaction.
That's huge. It tells you the connection was profound.
Why do you think that is? Why does confronting loss, real deep loss in a story, sometimes make it more resonant, not less, instead of turning readers off?
Well, I think it connects right back to those core themes we were talking about: perseverance, purpose.
How so?
When a story honestly portrays loss, it adds this layer of brutal honesty. It acknowledges that pursuing big dreams, breaking barriers, isn't neat. It often involves pain, real setbacks.
Life isn't simple.
Right. It's like the story says, look, the achievement is wonderful, but let's not pretend the journey wasn't incredibly hard, that things weren't lost along the way. That honesty makes the triumphs, the perseverance itself, feel so much more profound. You understand the weight of what the character carried.
Got it. The struggle validates the success, in a way.
It gives it depth. It gives it meaning beyond just, reaching the goal.
So putting it all together, the relatable character pushing through barriers, the biographical writing style that makes it feel true, and this intense emotional journey through loss towards, well, a kind of resolution.
Yeah.
It really paints a picture of why the reviewer ended up saying, they highly recommend this one if you love emotional stories about perseverance, purpose, and breaking barriers. It hits all those notes.
Absolutely. It sounds like a kind of book that doesn't just entertain, but really sinks in, stays with you, because it captures something true about, well, striving, both the highs and the lows.
Okay, well, that wraps up our deep dive into this really insightful review of Taylor Jenkins Reid's Atmosphere. We've touched on that compelling protagonist, the unique writing style that feels so real, and the pretty intense emotional ride.
A journey through loss that ultimately reinforces purpose, it seems.
Definitely. But before we sign off, here's something to think about. We've talked about how this fictional story feels like biography. How does that kind of story, one that blends fiction with that feeling of truth, help you personally process or think about real-world challenges? Things like perseverance, dealing with setbacks, maybe even profound loss.
Yeah. What role do these intensely emotional, almost biographical feeling narratives play in how we understand our own